Oral questions by members.
Member for Skeena.
Reagan battled schizophrenia and addiction for 30 years, cycling in and out of hospitals, supportive housing, and the streets, never stable and never safe. Last May, Reagan overdosed and died soon after. Reagan needed access to a facility equipped to provide the long-term, compassionate care that is necessary for those battling complex and debilitating mental health challenges. But in BC today, that type of care simply does not exist. Reagan wasn't violent or a criminal. He couldn't access a bed at Surrey pretrial. He needed a bed in a place like Riverview. So when will this government bring in secure, medically supervised, long-term care facilities for people with severe and persistent mental illness and permanent brain injuries?
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. And it is always challenging to hear of situations like the member has described of this individual, and we all want and need people to get the care that they deserve and require. Mr. Speaker, that's why this government has been so committed to building up a system, a continuum of care, of voluntary care, but also understanding that for some individuals who are not able to seek the care that they need and who may present a danger to themselves or to others, that they also deserve care. Mr. Speaker, that's why we have committed, as the member and all members of this House know, to involuntary treatment under the Mental Health Act, provided the clarification for clinicians, psychiatrists, others, to understand how to interpret and apply that act. Mr. Speaker, that's why we have opened involuntary care, why we are moving forward with approved homes, and why we will continue to move forward with the supports that people need.
Member supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Respectfully to the minister, committed has not actually given any results yet. And as I stated, involuntary care bed is not what Reagan needed. Reagan was finally receiving the quality care that he needed at Riverview before it closed. Reagan's grieving mother told me that her son was at South Hills twice. It didn't work. He left delusional and unmedicated and was returned to emergency departments by police. What's needed is not another temporary patchwork program. What's needed is a facility to provide compassionate care, like Riverview, a permanent, secure environment for people who cannot live safely on their own. Will the minister commit today to funding and building facilities that actually meet the needs of people like Reagan so that they can maintain a reasonable quality of life and not end up on the streets?
Minister of Health.
Thank you again, Honourable Speaker, and thank you again to the member for the question. It was not this government that took the decision to close the Riverview facility in a way that left people without the supports that they need. Mr. Speaker, this government has invested in the Redfish Healing Centre, a place that provides the type of complex care and supports for people, not just dealing with serious mental health issues, Mr. Speaker, but often with concurrent issues, related issues to do with substance use disorders and sometimes acquired brain injury as well. Mr. Speaker, Redfish Healing Centre is a place that provides 105 beds. I've been able to visit myself. I encourage the member. I hope that she is also able to visit to see the incredible care that is provided for people there. This government has committed to expanding this form of treatment. Mr. Speaker, this government is committed to expanding complex care housing, the type of supportive recovery housing, and to do everything that we can to build that system of support for people experiencing issues like these. And I really appreciate the questions from the member. Thank you.
Members, before I recognize the next member, I want to caution all members not to use electronic equipment during the question period. Please turn your laptops off and cell phones. Member for Bulkley Valley Stikine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A question to the Minister of Health. The Northern Isolation Travel Assistance Outreach Program provides funding for approved physicians who visit communities and provide medical services to rural communities. There are 30 specialists that travel to the Bulkley Valley District Hospital regularly. This side of the House has recently learned that not one of these 30 specialists are up to date on their reimbursement payments, some waiting as long as 6 months. A simple question to the Minister: why have these 30 specialists not been paid on time?
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question and the question around supports, better supports for people living in rural and remote communities. We know that they face inequities when it comes to accessing specialists, and so programs like these, programs that the member describes, are an important part of delivering those services to people living in rural and remote communities. I'll take the question on notice, Mr. Speaker, to take back to my staff and get the answers that the member is seeking, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Member supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Respectfully to the minister, her ministry has known about this issue since 2024. In fact, a letter was sent to the Rural Practice Programs branch of the Ministry of Health detailing the scope of the problem. It said, quote, "Positions remain hard to recruit. One of the main barriers cited is the delay or lack of payment from the NITA OP program," end quote. People are waiting for up to 9 hours to see a doctor, and they're waiting months for a specialist. And now the specialists are talking about withdrawing their much-needed services. Dr. Krushenki provided care to patients at the Bulkley Valley District Hospital and hasn't received any of his 2024 expenses reimbursed to date. We cannot lose any access to specialists in BC's north. Why does this government continue to put rural and remote health care at risk?
Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. As in my last answer, I've taken her question on notice. But again, Mr. Speaker, she raises a really important point around access to specialists and rural recruitment. Mr. Speaker, this government understands just how important it is to build and strengthen our healthcare workforce, to train more physicians here in British Columbia, which is why we have expanded the UBC Medical School with new
Members,
seats.
both sides. The member also knew that the first question asked was taken on notice, and she asked the same question. The chair allowed it, and now the minister, if you're taking it on notice, if you want to explain it, it's up to you. It's your prerogative.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I do want to explain, because the member points out so rightly how there's work to do to continue to strengthen our healthcare workforce so that people have access to the healthcare when they need it and where they need it. Mr. Speaker, that's why we've expanded the UBC Medical School. That's why we've added a new medical school at SFU. Mr. Speaker, specifically to support family physicians in rural communities. That's why we've taken action with incentives for nurses, physicians, and others to travel and to work and live in rural communities.
Please conclude.
Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue this work. We know just how important it is, and we're not going to stop.
House Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When British Columbians seek help for a loved one experiencing a mental health crisis, they should know this help will not result in tragedy. Wellness checks are a tool to check on the physical or mental well-being of an individual who may be in distress, typically conducted by police without the support of a mental health team. Wellness checks have resulted in increased harms or even death to the individual who needed help. Police officers have expressed they are not the appropriate response for mental health crises. My question is to the Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General. How will the government address the failures in wellness checks and this year, in 2025, transition our mental health crisis response away from police officers and towards peer-assisted care teams? Thank you.
Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite for the question. There has been a considerable amount of time investing in this province in teams that combine police and mental health workers. It is a program that is ongoing and has been successful. It is a program that we're going to continue into the future. The whole crux of the issue is the ability to meet the needs of the client. This person who is calling the police for help, or someone who is calling the police on their behalf. It's not always a police response, as you correctly noted, but the combination of a police person and a mental health worker is what we're striving to achieve, and we are continuing.
Member supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Understanding the complex needs of people experiencing crisis requires professional response and expertise in mental health issues. Investment in programs like CIRCLE, Crisis Response Community-Led, offer a person-first approach to those experiencing mental health crises with trained responders to de-escalate and provide safety and support. This government has delayed rapid expansion of mental health services like CIRCLE. My question through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General, what are the ministry's targets in 2025 for increasing the number of communities that have access to life-saving, non-police mental health response services? Thank you.
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. It is so important that we continue to make investments in different ways of approaching issues that face society, Mr. Speaker, and one of those is how we can best help people who are experiencing a crisis. The member is right. It's not always appropriate to send emergency responders or police officers to a situation, and that's exactly why peer-assisted community teams, now called CIRCLE, Crisis Response Community-Led, are teams that send people out to help people facing these kinds of crises. Mr. Speaker, we're expanding and creating new CIRCLE teams. I had the opportunity just last week together with others to visit the Victoria-based CIRCLE team and to witness firsthand, literally standing in the room surrounded by support workers who received a call and were able to act quickly to respond to a person's crisis. This is a mental health worker, a peer support worker being dispatched instead of police and providing immediate crisis counseling and resources. Mr. Speaker, we have teams that are operating in the North Shore, Victoria, New West, Prince George, Comox Valley. I'm going to have more to say soon about how these teams are expanding. They are already responding to over 5,800 calls alone last year, doing incredible work, and we should all be very grateful to them.
Thank you. Member for North Island.
The BC Review Board oversees cases for people found not criminally responsible or unfit to stand trial. Over half of the referrals are not in custody when they go before the board. Their latest report, which the government received, shows a 97% increase in serious offenses like sexual and aggravated assault, and an 83% jump in major crimes like murder. BC and other centres no longer accept forensic patients. BC has just one forensic hospital for 5.6 million. Ontario has 11 for 15 million, for over 15 million. We've seen a dramatic increase in serious offenses in the past 2 years, and when will this government provide real services that address this crisis rather than continual Band-Aid solutions?
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. Thank you to the member for the question. The province's forensic psychiatric hospital, operated by the Provincial Health Services Authority, provides an incredibly important service to British Columbia by being able to hold and be able to treat those people who are undergoing often severe mental illness issues, sometimes combined with concurrent substance use issues and others. Mr. Speaker, there are already 2,000 beds across British Columbia that do support this type of psychiatric service for people outside of the forensic system, outside of our criminal justice system. Mr. Speaker, this government understands just how important it is to provide the appropriate supports for people in the right places. That's why we're continuing to expand those supports outside of our forensic system. For example, Mr. Speaker, that's why we're going to continue to build up a continuum of voluntary care, as well as enabling involuntary care where it is appropriate and where it is required. Mr. Speaker, this is an important issue in our society today, and I appreciate the way that this House can speak both compassionately and also appropriately about these serious issues that we face. We're deeply committed to doing this work, and we're going to continue to do it.
Member for Fraser-Nicola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After 8 years in government, it's clear that the NDP is utterly failing on the public safety and mental health crisis. They made the problem worse with their reckless policies, and again, with pressure from this opposition, flip-flopped on involuntary care. Lives are being lost, and communities are living in fear. If it's not a lack of evidence, tragedy, and family pleas, or is it simply political risk aversion that's stopping the Premier from modernizing involuntary care?
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. This government is incredibly committed to helping people with different types of needs, with different types of care that they need as they face some of the most serious issues of their lives. Mr. Speaker, we understand, for example, how the toxic drug crisis has already taken far too many people, and that intervention is required to help people facing these crises. Mr. Speaker, this government understands that involuntary care is compassionate care for those people that are experiencing the most severe concurrent disorders, mental health illnesses, substance use issues, and often with acquired brain injury. Mr. Speaker, we've canvassed it many times in this House. We understand that there are some people for whom, who are not able to seek the care that they need, and that we're balancing issues of community safety, of public safety with an individual's rights. Mr. Speaker, that's why we recently opened the Surrey Pretrial Centre with 10 beds. Mr. Speaker, that's why later this month we'll be opening approved homes, 20 more beds in Alouette in Maple Ridge. Mr. Speaker, that's why the Premier has committed to continue to expand involuntary care where it is needed, up north, other places in British Columbia. We're committed to this work. We're going to continue to do it.
Member for Abbotsford Mission. Sorry. Abbotsford West.
Nope. One more time.
Courtney Comox.
Mr. Speaker, the minister stood in question period and stated there are over 3,700 publicly funded treatment beds across BC. But with a modicum of scrutiny, that real number turned out to be 800 that are actual clinical live-in treatment beds, the kind that provide evidence-based therapy with medical oversight. The rest, supported recovery housing, with no mandatory medical treatment required. To the minister, why is your government padding the numbers? And how can families trust that their loved ones in crisis will get real help, and not just a mattress and a glossy self-help brochure?
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is so disappointing to hear the member's characterization of a support system that is being built to help people who are facing some of the most challenging issues in their lives.
Members.
Mr. Speaker.
Shh. Members. Minister has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, to listen to the opposition, one would think there is only one kind of treatment, and that all treatment must be bed-based. When, Mr. Speaker, we know that in order to meet the needs of people where they are at, that there are a whole range of services and supports that they need. Every single person's recovery journey is different. That's why it is so important to be able to provide the types of services that people need. Mr. Speaker, yes, some bed-based treatment is required, and that's why we've continued to build out the system of voluntary treatment beds. But, Mr. Speaker, supportive housing is also required. Being able to support people who are able to live at home but need that support. With Mr. Speaker, enabling people to access quick services through, for example, the opioid access treatment line, where a person can, on the same day, speak to somebody about their issues and receive the help that they need around opioid agonist therapy. Mr. Speaker, that's just one example. Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue this program. We're going to continue this suite of programs from intervention and education through to treatment, recovery, the services that people need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Abbotsford Mission.
Mr. Speaker, a Canadian-trained neurologist endorsed by BC Cancer, endorsed by Abbotsford Regional Hospital, endorsed by Fraser Health, has been blocked from completing her training due to bureaucratic contradictions between licensing and residency systems. Foreign doctors can buy residency seats and then leave the province, but Canadian citizens backed by local hospitals can't get access, even when they offer to sign a return of service agreement. Why is this government allowing red tape to block Canadian-trained specialists from serving communities that desperately need them?
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Thank you to the member for the question, and again, highlighting the importance of doing everything that we can to ensure that foreign-trained physicians are able to come and practice here in British Columbia. Mr. Speaker, that's why we're working with the College of Physicians and Surgeons.
Let the minister answer the question, please. Minister will continue.
Thank you, Speaker. That's why we're working with the College of Physicians and Surgeons to streamline and reduce the red tape associated with the credentialing and licensure of physicians here in British Columbia. Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue that work. As the House knows, we have recently announced the changes that are coming to help U.S.-trained physicians come here to British Columbia. We know, Mr. Speaker, there's more work to do, and we're going to continue to do that with provinces across Canada around the licensure of internationally trained physicians here in BC, because we know that BC is a terrific place to live, a terrific place to work, to raise a family. That's why we're going to continue to do this work to build up the workforce of family physicians and specialists, Mr. Speaker, because we need them here in British Columbia.
Member for Abbotsford South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Abbotsford Regional Hospital and Cancer Centre is facing a neurology collapse. 2 positions remain unfilled. A third is on the brink, and there is no overnight neurology coverage on the horizon. Local leadership has the funding, has a willing, Canadian-trained, qualified candidate. But government policy won't let them move forward. Now, this minister is all too happy to wrap herself in the flag. But here we have a Canadian-trained, willing candidate. Why is the minister blocking Abbotsford from filling critical neurology positions?
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I appreciate the member's advocacy. He and I have had the chance to canvass this issue. Mr. Speaker, as he knows, we are doing everything that we can to streamline, to speed up the licensure, the credentialing process for people who are trained elsewhere and come to Canada, Canadians who leave to get trained and come back, because we know, Mr. Speaker, we know that we're experiencing a global shortage of healthcare workers, and that includes...
Members.
And Mr. Speaker, that includes specialists like the member describes. Mr. Speaker, that's why we have to continue to double down on this work and work with the college. For example, Mr. Speaker, I'll appreciate the opportunity. As I said, Mr. Speaker, I've had the chance to talk to the member about this before, and I will gladly take up the opportunity to talk to him specifically again and encourage any member who has issues or has questions about physicians in their riding to come to me in my office as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kootenay Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, just 2 weeks ago in Cranbrook, 2 nurses were attacked by the same patient. Our hospital is overwhelmed, operating at 110% capacity, with patients stuck in hallways with no space to care for them properly. Recently, a child died because they couldn't get airlifted in time. A child died because they couldn't get airlifted. Every week, more people are brought in for mental health appointments and then left on their own. No ride home, no help, nothing. Is this what this government calls a working and successful healthcare system?
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Anytime a child dies is an incredibly tragic event. My heart goes out to the family of this young person, Mr. Speaker, and to the community. It's stories like these, Mr. Speaker, that motivate us all to do everything that we can to continue to strengthen our healthcare system here in British Columbia, because we have so much to be proud of. There are incredible physicians, nurses, and healthcare workers who every single day are giving everything that they can for the health, wellness, and safety of British Columbians. And I hope, and I would say to all of them who are out there listening to us, that the discussion we're having here in the House in no way diminishes the work that they are doing, because they are doing absolutely extraordinary work. Mr. Speaker, this government has committed to continue to build a healthcare system so it is here for British Columbians when and where they need it. This is what I wake up every single day thinking about. Mr. Speaker, this is the work that this government is committed to doing, and this is exactly what we're going to continue to do.
Member for Columbia River Revelstoke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. With all due respect, we don't want any more thoughts in rural BC. We want help. For decades, border communities in my riding relied on Alberta hospitals for acute care. It was faster, it was closer, and it was life-saving. Now that access has been cut off, patients are being forced to wait longer, travel much farther, and suffer worse outcomes. Mr. Speaker, can this government give the people of the East Kootenay a legitimate reason while they're putting a failing system ahead of patients?
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. And I know that the member comes from a rural community, as do I, and understands just how important it is to continue to support people in rural communities, because the issues of inequity that people face are serious. Mr. Speaker, that's why this government continues to invest in incentives and programs to bring more healthcare workers into rural communities. Mr. Speaker, that's why this government has invested so much in our emergency response system, building out ambulance stations, adding paramedics, adding 24/7 coverage into these communities so that when patient transfers need to occur, but Mr. Speaker, most importantly, when somebody needs to call an ambulance at the time, calling 911, needing to have that service there, that it is there for people. Mr. Speaker, as a former mayor of a rural community, as a resident of a rural community almost all my life, I understand just how deeply this affects rural communities, and I will give that member my solid commitment to continue fighting hard, to working with this government, to continue investing in rural communities, to make it easier for people to access the health care when they need it.
Member for Kamloops Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I cannot believe that the health minister just stood up and praised their investments to the ambulance service when the previous question before that was about a child that died waiting for air ambulance service out of that exact same region for medical care. Mr. Speaker, it's no wonder this is the government that needs sledgehammer legislation under the guise of saying that's the only way they can build a school quickly, because we're 8 years into this government and they cannot build anything to do with treatment in any timely way. For 8 years, we've heard deeply committed, much work to do, continue the work. We're working on a continuum of care. The only programs they repeatedly point back to is Foundry and Redfish, and those are both started under the previous BC Liberal government, not this government. 8 years. 8 years people have been waiting, and maybe it's because when we asked the Premier about imparting carbon tax on dirty coal, he said, and I quote on February 24th, if it was easy to do, absolutely, we would do it. That attitude seems to have permeated every minister in his government, Mr. Speaker, on any topic.
Question, member.
When can we reasonably expect to see defined timelines and deliverables around things like forensic care up in the north that we've been asking about? Cross-border service access for the Kootenays, proper treatment beds that are actually providing treatment, not, as we heard, a mattress and a glossy brochure. When will the government actually deliver any form of deliverable chart so we can actually track their progress instead of this bouncing ball of we're deeply committed and we care, because that's not cutting it anymore.
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. We've had the chance to canvass a lot of healthcare questions here. One question that I haven't been asked is what they would do differently. Mr. Speaker.
Members, shh. Members, come to order.
Let's be clear about what the opposition's choices would be, Mr. Speaker. They would drain doctors.
Member.
They would drain doctors and nurses from our public health care system. Mr. Speaker, they would make it so that people waited longer and would pay for worse care.
Members, a few minutes ago, I talked about the member must be temperate and respectful. Question was asked. Now let's hear the answer. You may not agree with the answer, but you have to be quiet. Member, are you listening or not? Minister will continue.
Mr. Speaker, in a closed-door meeting last summer, the opposition leader asked if he would allow for paid health care. He said that the Canada Health Act stops him from doing that for now. He said that he hopes to change that, and I quote, "That's what the silly Canadian Health Act is all about, but hopefully one day we'll get some changes there as well." Mr. Speaker, that's what's shameful.
The bell ends the question period.